Right, we're getting into it. Look, it's been tough for me, to be fair, to try and prepare some of this content this week because the Super League's thrown things into disarray. But this, of course, is the team that I would play against Chelsea on Saturday. It's a massive game for the top four race, to be honest. It's done us a massive favour, Chelsea getting a draw against Brighton, Liverpool slipping up. Let's hope Tottenham do the same. But injuries for us is really concerning. A couple of key players out. We know Declan, we know Mickey Antonio. So it is going to affect the way that this squad is going to have to play against Chelsea. I've made a couple of changes. It's on the basis that I want a little bit of mobility at the back. I want decent ball carriers. I want recovery pace. And I want our midfield to compete a little bit against Chelsea because I think that's where West Ham can get a little bit of joy. And we also need a little bit of magic from the two frontmen. So let's get on with things. Let's start with the goalkeeper, LUKASZ FABIANSKI, who he did make a mistake, fair enough. He did make a mistake for the second goal against Newcastle. Again, he's got a lot of credit in the bank with West Ham fans, rightly so. He never really puts a foot wrong, commanding in terms of dealing with balls into the box. 9 times out of 10, good shot stopping. I think Chelsea are going to offer a different type of approach play. The wing backs, the way they can have a front four at times, they can overload the box. They've got really good technicians in there. All of their front men are really decent ball carriers as well. So it isn't going to be a simple one-on-one or transition type game. It's going to be a game where he's going to have to concentrate for long periods of time. And he's going to have a back five in front of him that, let's be honest, realistically, are going to be sitting deep, trying to soak up pressure and hope they can then move into the space. The biggest change from the last game is this. Now, I don't know whether Moyes will do this. I would hazard a guess that he won't, but it's not off the cards. This isn't unreasonable to suggest. Ryan Fredericks at right wing back. I think in terms of dealing with those wing backs that Chelsea have, whether it's Chilwell, Alonso down that side, you need the recovery pace. You know, Chilwell is a guy that's going to get into the box as well. He's going to get down that byline. He's got variability in his play. Also, I don't particularly think that Fredericks is the best technical player, that he can really set the attacks and doesn't really get good deliveries into the box the same way that SOUCEK does. This game is really about getting West Ham further up the pitch when we've got the opportunity. And you can't deny the pace that he's got. And you also can't deny that he can get back very quickly, help West Ham get into shape and stop Chelsea from getting on the front foot or working in those spaces because they have got the men and the technicians to find them. Whether or not they're clinical enough, again, is a different ballgame. So therefore, I have put Vladimir SOUCEK at right-sided centre-back in the absence of Craig Dawson. I personally prefer that. The way Chelsea play, the false nine, Havertz dropping deep, we need good mobility in here. SOUCEK's also got decent distribution. In the same way that we look at Aaron Cresswell, a left-sided centre-back, SOUCEK could offer that. I think he's aggressive, but I also think he can be disciplined and decent one-on-one. You need that because if Chelsea try to change things later on in the game, if Olivier Giroud comes on, if there's a bit of an aerial threat, they need someone to be closed down quickly, like a Timo Werner. He does offer us that option, and I would prefer him rather than Balbuena because whilst I didn't think Balbuena really put too many foot wrong when he was playing in the team last time out, I just worry he's a bit too aggressive for this type of game, and you've got to be patient, and it will suit Chelsea's game plan if he's trying to get engaged into the press too early doors. The middle centre-back, I've gone for ISSA Diop. And the reason why I've done this is because I don't think you can really, to be honest, put him on either side of that back three. He's not decisive enough when trying to get the ball out of play. It will be problematic because Chelsea will press from the front at times with a front three if Mason Mount joins that as well. He will be under pressure. I think as a central centre-back, the impetus is in him just to clear it, to get the ball into the midfield or be aggressive in the air, which again suits us. And whilst Kai Havertz isn't the most physically dominating centre-forward or false nine, he's a tall guy. He can carry the ball. He can hold the ball up as well. So I think it might suit Diop's game. And I think when you've got someone like a SOUCEK alongside him, Angelo OGBONNA with the experience, we can try and caveat for that a little bit. And I know it will be tough, but I would rather do that than have somebody like a Balbuena and a Diop in the side because I just feel that they're going to rely on each other too much. There's going to be a lot of indecisiveness. Left-sided centre-back, as I've touched on, is Angelo OGBONNA. Again, no-brainer. I kind of flip between the idea of having him as a central centre-back because he can really pull that back through and organise it. But I think what we saw against Newcastle was how Moyes wants to play with him in the absence of Aaron Cresswell. The left-hand side, if we can advance a little bit further forward, he's not got bad distribution, but by and large, composed on the ball, makes the right decisions, a cool head, no-brainer there for me. You look at who Chelsea can employ in that front three. If it's Pulisic, you need someone that can manage the game well enough against someone like a Pulisic because you give him a bit of space in the box, he'll thrive on it. He'll take you on, he'll beat you. And one-on-one, I feel that, OGBONNA is our best defender. Let's talk about left wing-back Ben Johnson. There is really no choice here again because Arthur Masuaku is out of the side, I believe, with a swollen knee. You look at It depends on who Chelsea play. Ideally, I kind of flip it between, do you play Arthur or do you not? And I think if West Ham were going to be aggressive in getting that ball forward, and we had Arthur and Fredericks might offer something in terms of ball carrying. I like Ben Johnson anyway, because I think even though he's a little bit raw and rough around the edges, at the same time, he's good one-on-one. I think him and Reece James is an interesting battle. He's got to go out to Reece James. He's got to close him down. He's got to be aggressive, and he's got to stop him from getting balls into the box, because his distribution is absolutely fantastic. You've also got to look at the fact that James is going to try and switch the play at times. We can try and nullify that. We stop Chelsea trying to pull us out of space. He can carry the ball forward. He has shown that. Going forward next season, of course, I'd naturally like to see him on the right-hand side. And whether or not Fredericks is here next season is by the by. But I would like to see Ben Johnson eventually transition to that side, because I feel that he's a lot more comfortable there. And he's got really good delivery on his right foot. The midfield speaks for itself in terms of personnel. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I would like to see them operate. Mark Noble is not a no-brainer from a midfield standpoint as a defensive midfielder sitting a bit deeper. I always worry about Noble in terms of pressing. I've said that since the get-go, probably for 2 seasons now. If he can take the pressure off ISSA DIOP in terms of going to win that ball off Kai Havertz, and he can just make it difficult for Havertz to operate, make him forcing with his back to goal. Stop. And we saw against Brighton, they were very good at getting out individually, restricting the space and forcing them back into that midfield. If Noble can do that and West Ham can keep that back three in a decent shape, then we're going to nullify them. Their creativity isn't all that. They rely on, they're very technical, they're very efficient. There's a lot of angles and triangles in terms of the passing and breaking down sides. But ultimately, if you stop Havertz from getting a run or turning the centre-back, I can't see too many one-on-ones for Chelsea, if I'm honest. So that, for me, would be the way that I would play Mark Noble. His distribution, he was okay for 10, 15 minutes against Newcastle, and then all of a sudden it became wayward. And possibly in this game where you're using wing-backs to get the ball forward, he might be better at switching the play as opposed to playing through the lines, which I didn't think he did well enough against Newcastle. And the 2 centre midfielders, Thomas Soucek, conventionally is your number 8, naturally, and Pablo Fornals in that kind of fluid centre midfield, left-sided forward role that I think West Ham will need. And maybe he can keep his position a bit deeper if you can advance Fredericks and Johnson a bit further up and carry that ball and get it into Lingard and Jarrod Bowen. These two are really, really important for me in terms of the press on Chelsea. They're both effective pressers. I think that energy you're going to need to try and limit Chelsea, force them back into their back three, and again, make them play out from the back, force them into positions where they're not going to play it over the top. They're always going to look for that cute angle with their 2 centre midfielders, Kante and Jorginho. And if you're pressing them slightly higher, you're restricting them. Jorginho, as good as I think he is, isn't really going to play through you. He's going to try and play back. And I think that's the type of question that these 2 centre midfielders can do in this game. Ideally, of course, you'd like Fornals to join the attack on the left-hand side. How many opportunities he's going to get for that, I'm not sure. We're talking about a Chelsea back three, incredibly aggressive, wide centre-backs going and trying to win the ball. Can Fornals deal with that pressure? One of the things that I always say about the 2 centre midfielders is please keep hold of the ball. Keep hold of it long enough. Make the simple pass. You know, this possession in this game could be the difference between West Ham getting a point or a win. And it's going to be a really tough game. And Soucek, for me, he's been a bit wasteful in possession. I think as well, at times, our centre midfield has been very easy to play through. You don't want that with Chelsea because they will come deeper. They're happy to come deeper. They don't have a natural centre forward. It isn't direct high press in the same way as there was with Lampard. So it's really just about being technical with the play, being efficient with it as well, and making the right pass. And hopefully we'll get opportunities. And of course, that naturally leads me to the 2 centre forwards in Jesse Lingard on one side, and of course, Jarrod Bowen on the other. And really, let's be honest, there's a lot of variability in terms of how they'll play, where they play. It's really tough. It's really tough. But to be honest, just because of the way that we play and the way that we use those 2 centre forwards, or at least what they've become, the directness and the energy that they've got to possibly get in behind those Chelsea centre backs, for me, is what will do it. And it has to be in transition. It has to be from Soucek or Fornals winning the ball in those midfield pockets, like Brighton did, to be fair. Brighton switched on. They showed a slight weakness in this Chelsea side. Yes, maybe they weren't on it. Yes, maybe their heads were elsewhere. But the truth is they lost the ball a lot of times in their own third. So if you can get your centre midfield to push up, you've got a bit of security in those just behind you, keeping his position nicely and stopping us becoming open and expansive, then Lingard, to be honest, and Bowen, I've got the energy to do it, and the directness and the clinicism. And that's such a big thing in this game. You know, it will be tough to go and win the ball off Chelsea and press them from the front. I'm completely not expecting us to do that. If I have anything, I'm expecting us to sit a little bit deeper, soak up pressure, and hope spaces appear. But you create space from your press in your midfield. And I would like to see us go and press that midfield with the energy of Tomas, SOUCEK and FORNALS. And maybe we'll get an opportunity with the likes of Lingard and JARROD Bowen, who are good. I mean, Lingard, for me, as well, the variability of his play. We saw against Newcastle, coming deep, picking it up. Can we create overloads in that Chelsea midfield? Can we take advantage of that disconnect at times between Kante, Jorginho and Kai Havertz? Can we force Kai Havertz even deeper by Lingard picking up the ball? These are questions that West Ham can pose to Chelsea. It isn't impossible to go out there and get a result. It's a very difficult game. I've touched on it in the What to Expect Chelsea video, and you can see about why I think Chelsea is such a good side. But West Ham have options in this game. In terms of a score prediction, and of course I always give a score prediction in these type of videos, I'd go 1-0. Possibly, do you know what? I'd go 0-0. I'll go 0-0. Now, yes, that's against the grain. Yes, we've conceded a lot of goals. But I think this team will respond to that. I hope they respond to it because leaking the goals in the manner that we're doing at the minute is something that Moyes definitely has to work on. We can't go into games having to score 3 to get 3 points. That's not, I say it's not acceptable. It's just not really the way that Moyes probably wants to operate either. And I think maybe Chelsea's at times lack of creativity. And again, it's a compliment because they're efficient, but their lack of creativity could be at the benefit of West Ham in terms of trying to nullify their chances, trying to stop them getting in behind. The other teams we've played have all occupied the sort of central pockets, got forward, pushed their fullbacks on, made it difficult, forced us back. If this is a game where Chelsea have the ball and aren't really doing too much with it, hopefully we have our shape. And if they have possession, then we're not pressing high. And listen, I've touched on it again in the breaking down the Newcastle game. We've got to be better when we've got the ball against these sides. Fortunately, this is a game where we're not going to have a lot of the ball. And ironically, that's how we operate a little bit more effectively. But that is my team that I would like to see against Chelsea. So I'll do a quick recap. Fabianski in goal, Fredericks at right wing back, Soufal at right-sided centre-back, ISSA DIOP in the middle with Angelo alongside him at left-sided centre-back. Left wing-back is Ben Johnson. Mark Noble in the 6th role. Tomas, SOUCEK and FORNALS operating as 8s, but with FORNALS as a bit of a fluid forward, although I imagine he'll be a bit deeper in this game. And maybe Lingard can fill that role and come in deeper. And Lingard in almost like a 3-10-9 role with JARROD Bowen probably is the more prominent striker. So that is my team. Let me know in the comment section. Do you agree with it? The Fredericks call is an odd one, I understand, but I have seen it kicking around and I did agree with it. Would you go... I mean, there really aren't too many options, if I'm perfectly honest. Would you go BOWEN in there at right-sided centre-back? I'm absolutely all ears as ever. If you did enjoy this video and you have got this far, make sure you do drop a like. It really helps the channel. Subscribe to the West Ham Way if you're new. I'll be back on Thursday for the pre-match chat with Dan, where we'll cover all key aspects of this game, key danger men, influences, current form, things like that, Thomas Tuchel's side, and hopefully what our expectations are of the game. But thank you so much for joining me. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you very shortly.